Hello, welcome back to another FPL video. Now today we're doing the standard, the most basic FPL video you can do. You can't be on this platform without doing this video. It's the FPL first draft for the FPL 2020-21 season. A quick announcement, if you're new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Really helps me out. Let me know you're enjoying it. Hit that like button as well. And without further ado, let's get into the first draft of this season. So here we are, we have our first draft of this season. The first thing you'll probably notice is that I'm not going for any particularly, really cheap 4.5 mil midfielders or attackers. I personally like going for a kind of rotation sort of system. So in goal, we're looking at the likes of Ryan and Johnson to start with. Obviously, there are other 4.5 mil keepers, depending on fixtures, who we could bring in. Martinez for Arsenal also looks like a very good option. And you have the other guys, the promoted guys like Casilla could also be good, and the Aston Villa goalkeepers I think are both 4.5 as well. So if Heaton is back and definitely playing, he could be an option there as well. But with my goalkeepers, I quite like having kind of rotating goalkeepers depending on fixtures, and we saw Ryan last year pick up plenty of save points, and whenever West Brom have been in the league before, they've been pretty solid at the back. That's been their kind of go-to to stay up each year, is be really compact and solid at the back. Now we look at the defence. The main man, the first man in everyone's clean sheet, had to be Trent Alexander-Arnold. As soon as we saw that 7.5 mil price, he was straight into the team sheet. I'll be having a look at fixtures to see if I want to get Robertson in there as well. But for now, I think you can get the kind of best value in terms of their 4.5 mil players in the defence really. Vinagre is a player who's got loads of hype around him, and rightfully so, because he's definitely going to be starting in that left wing back position for Wolves. You're picking up all those clean sheet points for Wolves and potentially getting attacking potential as well. For Burnley assets, I like a few of those. You've got the likes of Peters and Charlie Taylor. I'll be going for either one of them depending on which one I think will start. Charlie Taylor started a lot of games. He's started between game week 18 and 36 when he wasn't injured. In 36 he got injured, but Peters was still kind of playing in that time as well, and he was getting loads of bonus points towards the end of the season, also picking up an attack and return. So I really don't mind Peters there as well. Ferguson for Crystal Palace is a player who will slowly be brought into that team, but once he's in that team, he will be locked and loaded. He'll be the kind of go-to every single week for right back for Crystal Palace once he sort of finds his way in the Premier League. So, even if you don't think he's going to start in the first couple of game weeks, definitely for me want to hold on to and wait until he does, because as soon as he does, his value will start going up, as Crystal Palace are a reasonably solid team, especially at home defensively. And also, I don't particularly want to waste a transfer to bring in a 4 mil defender whose value will just keep rising and rising as well if he does end up getting starts. Douglas, a player for Leeds. If I had another 0.5 mil more, I'd love to get in Dallas, as I think Dallas does look like a very, very good attacking option. But Douglas, if he starts, I've heard he's a bit more of a kind of defensive fullback, so maybe Bielsa will kind of use him a bit more in the Premier League because it's a bit less, they'll be able to attack a bit less in the Premier League than they will in the Championship. So Douglas, if he does get playtime as well, could be a very, very good format option. So you could potentially have 2 4 mil starting options there. Could they be the new Lundstrom or the new Aaron Wan-Bissaka? We'll have to wait and see. But midfield is really where I'm going for the big boys. What I like is that, the likes of Mane, Salah, Aubameyang are all 12 mil, even the likes of Sterling as well, all the kind of similar price bracket. So you can kind of chop and change throughout the season. So just because I've got Salah in there now, doesn't mean that Aubameyang is not going to be in there at some point, as I think Aubameyang will be kind of a must-have option at some point in this season. However, we got leaked the first set of fixtures, and Liverpool were playing West Ham at home, which kind of this kind of led to me putting Salah in my team for all my previous drafts, or all my pivot. When I was tinkering around a little bit, I kind of had Aubameyang in there, but because we had that little leak, I was like, okay, Salah probably going to be the guy to go for as a starting player. Then we've got Ziyech. I think Ziyech is going to become one of the most staple valued players in FPL this season. It's also, these players who are coming into the Premier League, if you get on them early, you'll have massive price rises. And Ziyech is a guy who I think will definitely start for Chelsea, and I think it's actually not too high of a risk, just because of how good he's been at the likes of Ajax. He's surely going to come and at least do something. And for 8 mil, I don't mind, typically thinking over previous seasons, 8 mil has been like Sigurdsson, Richarlison, and for that kind of bracket, surely Ziyech is going to do just as well as those guys, if not better. So I'm very happy to like have him there, even give him a bit of time to start popping off in the Premier League. Then we've got De Bruyne at 11.5. Now this for me is a headache over De Bruyne or Sterling. De Bruyne for me still I think will have a better whole season, but Sterling always comes out the blocks absolutely firing. And we look at the ownership stats right now. De Bruyne is up at like 60%. Sterling's only down at 8. Obviously, it's due to change when fixtures come out. But I think, there's definitely cases for both of them. And at the end of the day, I don't think you'll be too disappointed with having either. It's just whether the other one does better than that one, if you kind of get the gist of what I'm saying. And then we've got Mahrez in there as well. The plan for Mahrez is kind of have him for a couple of weeks at 8.5 mil. The 8.5 mil price tag allows me to easily swap to Pulisic, who, before he got injured, was the number one name on that Chelsea sheet. He was absolutely firing away the goals. And for 8.5 mil, I think he's going to be an incredible value player. I'm almost thinking of it as kind of everyone towards the end of last season was tripling up on Manchester United, getting the likes of Rashford, Martial, Bruno Fernandes. That was one of the main sort of template teams, as it were. And if you look at the kind of price ranges we're at with this Chelsea team, you've got Werner at 9.5, same as Rashford was. You've got the likes of Ziyech at 8 mil, same as Martial. And then you've got Pulisic at 8.5 and a similar to Bruno Fernandes. So I'm thinking if Chelsea can do similar things that Man United could, that kind of value, we've seen that, like what value those Manchester United players have, and I think that can definitely turn into this Chelsea team. So Mahrez to Pulisic, I think that's going to be an easy move that I'm going to set myself up for. Then the final spot in the midfield, Mason Greenwood. This is very reliant on the Jadon Sancho transfer, which actually looks reasonably unlikely at the minute, with the Dortmund chairman coming out and saying that he will not allow Sancho to leave this summer, offering him an incredible sum of money. So I think if Mason Greenwood, or if that transfer doesn't happen, and we know Mason Greenwood is starting week in, week out, which he very likely will, very rarely towards the end of last season, was Daniel James being started over Greenwood, even though the fixtures came thick and fast. With the week break that we're going to get in between each fixtures, there's no reason for Greenwood not to be starting every week if we don't see that Sancho transfer go through. So Mason Greenwood going to be an incredible option in my opinion for 7.5 mil, and he'll become a staple. Now the three attackers up front, I think the main value in attack this year is going to be the kind of budget players. I do like the look of Timo Werner, and I like the way they price the likes of Kane and Aguero. They make them much more appealing to go for, making them that kind of 1.5 mil cheaper. They want players to bring in more attackers, and I really do like the way they've done it. Jimenez 8.5, Ings 8.5. They're not completely outpricing these guys. I think Jamie Vardy's possibly been outpriced a little bit, considering Leicester's form towards the end of last season. He did get the golden boot, but I still don't see him outscoring the likes of Kane or Aguero consistently, and I think Werner's going to come in and absolutely blow the Premier League away. But I'm going for the Chelsea midfield options, and I think there's a few more points in there to gain. Now, for these budget guys, you have quite a lot of options. Shout out to the likes of Che Adams. You even got promoted clubs like the likes of Patrick Bamford and Charlie Austin coming in at 5.5 mil. All very, very good options. However, these three guys, I think value for money, are kind of the best options out there. You've got Antonio, who had an incredible end to the season, last FPL season. As a midfielder, he's turned into an attacker at 6.5 mil. I think that's very much worth it, and I think he'll be one of the most owned. He'll be reasonably highly owned just because of how well he has been. Obviously, depending on the fixtures, but because I'm going for these three budget strikers up top, it's not going to matter too much on the fixtures, because with the five that I have in the midfield, I'll most likely be benching one of these attackers each week. So I'll just be rotating them in and out depending on what the fixtures are like. Mitrovic, we've seen him do it in the Premier League before. He's done okay every time he's been in the Premier League, having a stint at Newcastle, and obviously a stint at Fulham when they were last in the Premier League. I think Mitrovic definitely could come up and be the new Pukki. Obviously, we've seen over past years these new players coming into the Premier League, which is what I'm trying to do a little bit. When they start scoring, their prices go flying. Pukki within a month went up by a full million, and you really, even if you just want him and just to cash in on that, I think you got to get ahead of the game. Ziyech and Mitrovic are the main guys, along with Ferguson. I think for me, I can see those three guys having massive price increases. Obviously, depending on ownership, I think Mitrovic and Ferguson, there's a lot of hype around Mitrovic, so he'll probably be reasonably highly owned. And because Ferguson is 4 mil, he'll probably have a reasonably high ownership as well, which kind of stints the amount to which their price can go up if their ownership is already quite high. But Ziyech, I don't think will actually start off with the greatest amount of ownership because people are a little bit scared to go with him. But I think once he starts banging, he's going to go flying. And the final attacker for me, Chris Wood. He's such a solid player. I mean, towards the end of last season, I had him in my team for the last 2 games. Scored 2 goals and 2. That's all you're really looking for this kind of player. And the strikers in teams, especially budget teams, they're going to score goals. Like Woods, he'll probably average, between 10 and 15 goals a season. I'm expecting the same from Mitrovic. I'm expecting the same from Antonio. You can't really expect the same from similarly priced midfielders. Maybe if you look at defenders, the likes of Robertson for about 7 mil, only paying 0.5 more, you can expect a much higher price. But then that would also mean, if I say swapped Antonio for Robertson, then I'd have a really poor attacker like Connor Wickham, who doesn't even start for Crystal Palace. Rather than that, I can have a player who potentially starts for Leeds and a player who potentially is going to start for Crystal Palace, meaning that I have a full playing squad, which is what I personally like to do. Obviously, other people have their favourites, just go for 4 in the midfield, go for 4 massive hitters in the midfield, then I have a 4.5 mil midfielder and a 4.5 mil attacker. You can do that, but from what I've experienced in FPL, it's always good to have backup players because, an injury, 1 red card or whatever, or just, a rotation where all your players suddenly have bad fixtures and you have to play your 4.5 midfielder who's going to do nothing. Maxi's going to get you a clean sheet. So I think for me, the best way to go is rotation. But yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this quick little first draft of my FPL, or first looked. Obviously, it's probably due to change when the fixtures come out. But I hope you have enjoyed this video. Hit the like if you've enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.